you have to say there's very limited leverage. And this gets to the point on whether sanctions worked or not. There is limited leverage in a place like Myanmar. We have guys with guns and who are corrupt, who have pockets of money, who don't care about the rest of the world, only care about themselves and their positions. There's not a whole lot you can do in that circumstance. You could put a lot of pressure on them, make them into a pariah state, isolate them, demonstrate, figure out what they do care about. And I think what they care about is their money. They care about getting weapons and being, I think their reputation matters, and being seen as a military that is integrated with other militaries around the world. I do think they care about their families enormously. If their kids can go to school in universities around the world, get a good education, get opportunities, that their families can get health care in neighboring countries. This is stuff they care about. That's where there might be some leverage. I don't think that kind of leverage is being instituted to the degree it could be, particularly by neighbors, particularly by the ASEAN states, by India, by China, by Japan, and by others. So will that be determinant? Will that force them to have to change their calculation, which is what we're trying to do here, change their calculations as to what is in their interest? It's hard to say. It's very difficult. And again, this is a country that had been colonized in the past and very, very sensitive to issues of sovereignty, very insecure about themselves, and don't want to be pushed around or seen to be pushed around, very proud. So you have to be very mindful and very careful of how you talk to them and address them to get them to move. But of course, you can't be too mild towards them, because they'll take advantage of that as well. But I do think more could be done. But whether it will make a difference, it's very hard to tell in a country, in an institution like the military that is so hidebound and so isolated from the world. ASEAN, I think, has a tremendous potential role. The problem is they're not terribly cohesive as an institution or as an organization, because there are 10 countries of very different political systems. If they could unify and get their act together, they can go in with one voice and say, for instance, this is not simply a matter of Myanmar's internal affairs, that what happens in Myanmar or any country has ripple effects across borders, that in an era of a pandemic, which is by definition something that is not national but global and regional, that the inability to have sufficient health services, or the fact that there is desperation in the country and economic devastation and other health problems of TB and AIDS and malaria, where people will be desperate and want to leave the country, or these health conditions can flow and be can cause endemic conditions in Thailand or China or elsewhere. These are things that ASEAN can step up and tell the Myanmar military affect them, and that they will not stand by it, and they won't give privileges to the military if it continues. They don't get a seat in ASEAN councils. They don't get access to healthcare in ASEAN countries. That they won't get their banks, the funds that are in banks in Singapore are shut down. They care about that. There are a number of ways that they can shut this stuff down, whether by ASEAN as an institution or ASEAN states individually, but they're not choosing to do it. And in the absence of that, the Myanmar military will feel they have a pathway to maintaining their control, and it becomes very difficult for other countries to gain leverage on them.